Okay, there was a time when a lofty idea was elevated with an iconic invention. A legend would grow around a single inventor, or two brothers. But this time, corruption was cracked open to cancel any TV show about its own inventor. We never heard the evidence in this court, but I will make the case for his claim to the world's greatest invention story. So by the time I was a kid, way back, watching my shows, there were no shows about the inventor boy genius. Just fun stuff sandwiched between pop culture and other stuffs we called food. All engineered with good taste, yet lacked nourishment. Like the show Tennessee Tuxedo, they did one on TV, but never mentioned the real boy wonder, whose imagination came up with the ideas and then invented television and its camera. Now I'm serving up his story on my invention, the Junkumentary, cashing in my pack rat dividends. I've been an investor since I was a kid. Boy, I love TV, even more than a Twinkie. Still do. I was even lucky enough to scratch out a living shooting all kinds of stuff, from paper to products, all ending up on the tube. Well, technically inside the tubes. Electrons in the camera's tube move the ones inside the picture tube, both powered by magic, from the 14-year-old magician. You know, he actually pulled off the trick that kept me entertained for over 50 years. The kid's story's the best, and I'll get right to it, but first a bit more about my invention. It's got much more than a dash of cool props I just had to keep. That's because I want to shoot 'em again, or for the first time. Alright, I got a lot of stuff, but I'm not a hoarder. I figure if I can show this stuff is still useful, I mean, look at all the junk I'm using to make this shot. All this explains the junk, and the inventory part will be the only reason I need to make more shots. And that reason? Well-grounded invention stories. I hope to make a few, but I will tell you this kid's story starting in less than a minute. Okay, time me while I stay off track and wrap up the explanation of my invention. Well, I'm not really an inventor. I am a contraptionaire. You see, cameras on tripods were okay, but when I moved them with my half-baked contraptions, well, my career swung into gear. It was great! I believe I was even the world's leader in moving a camera in 3D space, using plywood robotics. You see, we had a client that hired us to shoot this router, and our intern, the amazing Adam, knew how to use it. We used Home Depot stuff and precision bearings from thrift store skate wheels. Our goal? Plywood replicas that work just like my wood-free Airflex rig. Well, I have retired, and so have my robots, so I'm going handheld and having way more fun. Yeah, things are a bit shaky, but now I can devote my contraptioneering to the story. Okay, back on track. Back to a time when radio waves could only deliver the sound from the big game. Then, a kid with an idea stepped into an elevator with his idol. Mr. Edison? Yeah, kid? I got an idea for your light bulb. Okay. I know how to turn it into a television. This I gotta hear. Well, an electron gun replaces a filament. Then,
all right, that never really happened. But the amazing thing is, it could have. Maybe it did. I tried to get the real story way back in 5th grade.
Miss Elsie's science class. She was teaching us about great inventors. The Wright brothers. Bell. Edison. Marconi. I raised my hand and asked who invented TV. She said no one person did. True, no one invents in a vacuum. Yet alone on the edge of a freshly plowed field? Inspiration. But could the idea of a daydreaming Idaho farm kid actually work? Heck yes! And he showed his science teacher how. But our Miss Elsie never heard the real answer to my question. If only she had dug into that dustbin of history, my favorite storyteller would have inspired our class with the tale of television's true inventor. She might have used the electromagnets we made to demonstrate that kid's idea of using electrons in a vacuum. shot from a gun, then steering them like a tractor row by row with electronic magnets in order to dissect an image, all happening inside a camera whose output is converted to radio waves that are broadcast at the speed of light to a receiver. Then they're shot from another gun inside the vacuum of a picture tube with its own electromagnets that undissect and project 30 pictures a second. Just add a radio for sound, put all that stuff inside a box, then say hello to television. Well, at least that was the idea. The kid had quite the imagination. And he did get a high school education. Was it enough to invent both the TV and the camera? Well, he dropped out of college his very first year. It seems this normally shy kid, he could get a little passionate when he started talking about his vision for television. In fact, there were these two businessmen. When he was done talking, they asked that teenager if they could invest. And then there was another investor, his lab partner, life partner. Heck, they were a newlywed invention force, Pam and Phil, financed by those two businessmen who rolled the dice. But they did say California is the place you ought to be, so they loaded up the truck and moved to Beverly. Well, Hollywood, that is, not in the hills. Nah, those newlyweds got a nice little ground floor apartment down there on North New Hampshire Street. Everson and Gorell, the two investors, they showed up and Phil put them to work, winding coils and running down parts. In no time, they had their first prototype, right there on the dining room table, ready for the test, with its receiver, video amp with picture tube, and the thing he called the image dissector, the camera. It was the moment of truth as Phil powered it up. Uh-oh. A summer's worth of work up in smoke. The farm boy was no inventor, yet. Heck, even if it was a good idea, it was nothing without a working invention. And television had working inventions, but they were bad ideas. Just mechanical contraptions that would not fly. No, that kid had the right idea. Still, he had to engineer something way more complex than anything these guys had to, even Tesla. Yeah, radio was flying high. You see, capitalism built the supply and radio delivered. World-class entertainment on stage in America's living rooms. Now that supply unleashed a demand to add moving pictures with no moving parts. The biggest radio corporation in America got patents pending based on the same idea that hooked that teenager. Meanwhile, that lure supercharged Phil's thinking cap, determined to join the band of great inventors with his inventions. In 7 years, he'd done it. TV and camera. Next, his lab channeled, then fine-tuned Phil's genius into an even bigger miracle. They made it practical, ready to cash in. Just in time as Philo T. Farnsworth was finally awarded the patents for television. So why didn't my science teacher tell us that story? Corruption. You see, with the picture ready for prime time, it was time for mass production. Part of the Edison conglomerate planned to do just that. But they didn't plan on paying some kid for his patents, so they gave him a ring. Here comes Santa Spy, RCA's lead engineer. Just there to verify, then make him rich. His patents were still pending. Instrument. He needed some TV guidance, so we got him to assemble a camera as he memorized every detail inside and out.
I wish I had invented it myself.
Words he'd later regret. But in the meantime, before even boarding his train back east, while it was all fresh in his mind, he called his lab.
We start with the image dissector.
And he got him on the right track.
First, we change our whole approach to the pickup tube itself.
Ready to test by the time he arrived. It was grand theft on an industrial scale. Now with the whole recipe, they cooked up their first batch of practical television. So then came their next test, mass production. When radio revenue cooled off, TV opened up a wonderful world of profit. Right there in black and white. No shades of gray when they hailed it as their own invention at the New York World's Fair. His master's voice took full credit, using its self-proclaimed trust to set the narrative that lasted well past my 5th grade science class. All that inspiration, that great story hidden behind the knothole to history. We all lost the game that played out on this court, mostly in the 1930s when RCA was on top of the world, thanks to this guy's strategy on patents. They own them, and if you want to sell a radio, you pay RCA. Next up, the motherlode of markets, electronic gold, television that is. RCA's new claim in home entertainment, featuring the magic light bulb with electromagnets. Their idea? Soon, because Captain Corruption was playing another game on a different court, turning this place into a house of horrors, with a scary mob of lawyers. Philo had one who played perfect defense for years. Yeah, radio makers were ready to pay Philo. They wanted to license his patents. But the RCA hole threatened to cut off radio patents if they did. They could still make radios or TVs without sound. Corruption. The legal term? Patent interference. And unless you've got the money, you can't stop it. But our young Philo fought back with his patently great lawyer. Oh yeah! Against all odds, he turned it around by dragging their ass into court, where he crushed the claim that their guy, Santa Spy, invented it first. Yeah, his own words came back to haunt him. So next claim, no farm boy could possibly be that brilliant. Well, Phil's science teacher came out from retirement to testify, and out of his pocket the sketch from his fabulous freshman's vision for television. Case closed. Finally, for the first time, it was RCA that had to pay. Oh, the kid was set, ready to become the world's youngest and richest inventor ever. Well, he'd won the patent war, but a second war upended the whole world. America's industrial production turned from making the non-essential to building things that could win the war. Well, TV couldn't force a Nazi surrender, or Japan, so Philo's brain was enlisted, redeployed, to the new battlefield of radar electronics. After years of brutal destruction, Germany did surrender, but not Japan. That would take destruction that defied imagination, not Philo's. That's why he chose the radar project over the one named Manhattan. Soon, war went from hot to cold. Most of our greatest generation made it home, regenerated, and made TV essential in every living room. Those manufacturers made a fortune, as RCA led the way. They had run out the clock on those vital patents from Philo the Menace. But that kid's wonderful, wonderful vision was still the really big show in all of television, TV. The vision really took off, skyrocketed to the moon. That's when radio's giant leap gave us the invention's finest hour, with a broadcast the whole world tuned into on Philo's other invention. A small step for the explorer, as the inventor watched the giant leap on his own leap from his other leap, the moonshot, with his lab partner.
Pam, this has made it all worthwhile.
By then, the television had moved on, circuits integrated with transistors, but still living in the solid state of Philo's vision. No tubes. Nope, not any. Well, except for one, that kid's magic light bulb, some armed with 3 of his electron guns. Triple strength Philo, in color. His inventions went high def and drove on into the century. Capture and display, without RCA. In '86, they went bust, just as Philovision was really booming. Well, not Philo. A month after watching Apollo 14, in color, he died. No fame, no fortune, no justice. But it's not too late. He won the battle in this court, and this game is not over. We are the judge, jury, and can execute one of those hash pound deals. Please share this video with others who are just the type to roll on over to see who put the tube in YouTube. They'll reflect on that high-flying kid, unforgettable, totally wired to become the greatest inventor of all time. Catch you next time.